Hello. Welcome to the Nature of Pensacola. My name is Bonnie McLean. This program is a celebration of our natural resources in Northwest Florida. Today we are celebrating with Dr. Michael DeMaria. Obviously it's his music that we use on the show. That's our theme music, and so it's wonderful to be able to have Dr. DeMaria on the show today. Dr. DeMaria is a psychologist. He is an author. He is a musician and a composer. He is a teacher. He is an adjunct professor at the University of West Florida. And he does so many different things. And so hopefully we'll be able to cover at least some of the things that he does and in celebrating our natural resources and Mother Nature. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Bonnie. It's a joy to be here.
Thank you. What I would love to do is start out talking about eco-psychology. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes, eco-psychology.
I know that you are a psychologist, and I know that you've practiced for quite a number of years. I think that you work a lot with people in transition.
Correct.
And I think you work with adolescents and children, or am I?
Well, I specialized in children and adolescents for many, many years, a good 10, 15 years. That was where I kind of specialized coming out of school. And it really got me into really getting a chance to explore my art and music therapeutically, because I worked as an art and therapy, art therapist, music therapist, play therapist. But over the years, I was working a lot with child abuse. And it took its toll, to be completely honest. And I also started to begin working with adults going through transition, because I found what they were missing was connecting to their own inner child. So I found that the work I did with children and adolescents with such intensity was kind of like an apprenticeship for the work I began to do with adults later on.
And so where does eco-psychology fit in? How is that different or the same as traditional psychology?
Great question. Eco, from ecology, has the root word meaning household. And that sounds kind of strange when thinking people, even when they talk about ecology or the science of ecology. Eco-psychology grew out of the awareness and interest in ecology, which means that the household of life, meaning that the interconnection of nature, is fundamental to who we are as human beings. And if we don't take care of our environment, we end up not taking care of ourselves. Eco-psychology differs from traditional psychology. Probably the easiest way to put it would be that traditional psychology looks at the person in kind of isolation to see if they're feeling down, depressed, anxious, upset, stressed. They're looking at that individual psychologically in their own personal life, and also they may look at the biology, biochemistry of the individual, but it's pretty much in isolation outside of other human relationships. In eco-psychology, which draws a great deal from a lot of the indigenous and native traditions around the world, begins to realize that you can't look at a person or human beings in isolation from their environment, that we are part of a very delicate and comprehensive web of life, web of interrelationships. In fact, I know you've been very interested and studied many indigenous cultures yourself, and traditional medicine people would be looking at how the tribe or this person is in relationship to nature and how they are or aren't in balance with nature. And one of the first things you'd find is a family or a tribe, if they're not in balance with nature, if they're not giving back to nature as much as they're receiving, the tribe, the family, the individual gets out of balance. So eco-psychology really is interested in how the individual is feeling healthy in relationship to the environment as well that we live in. It would have been thought of as kind of strange many years ago to say, well, is this person spending time in nature, and maybe that's why they're out of balance. But what we know in terms of dealing with heart disease, cancer, a lot of complementary medicine, holistic health, that things like meditation in nature, being connected to nature, going out for walks in nature, being out at the beach, looking up at the sky, laying down on the ground, that these things help balance somebody, helps them feel more at peace. I stumbled on this in many ways kind of just because as a kid I grew up out in the woods, and not a wolf child necessarily, but grew up around 100 acres of woods up in Connecticut, and it was always very enchanting to me, and I always felt very drawn to being out in nature. And what I found as an adult was that during difficult times of transition, I would be drawn to going back into nature. And I could tell you dozens and dozens of stories about it, but I know we don't have that much time today. But what I like to emphasize is that ecopsychology is about connecting the individual to the natural world and how that brings balance to us individually, interpersonally, and as communities on living on the earth. And I also want to commend you for this show. I love the title, The Nature of Pensacola, and doing this and informing people about the importance of our natural resources and how we're really intimately connected to each other and to the natural world is very important.
When you mentioned that, I was remembering as a child when I would have a hard time, I would go climb a tree.
Yes.
And it wasn't until later that I started looking back on that and realizing that that was something real there that happened, that tree really enfolded me and nourished me and did some kind of healing, I think, just sitting up in that tree, or with the animals, the pets.
Absolutely. In fact, chapter 1 of my book, not that I'm pushing that,
let's
but
get into the book.
The book that I wrote, Ever Flowing On, very much the idea for it came while I was out in nature. And one of the very first stories I talk about is a tree I used to climb that was in the left front part of our yard growing up as a child. And when things became too hectic, in particular with parents or siblings, I would climb that tree, and very similar to what you're saying, felt enfolded. It was a relationship, energetically, emotionally, and helped me relax, focus, and realize I was part of something much greater than just this human family. And that was tremendously healing. What's been so neat for me in the 4 years since the book has been out is the kind of stories I hear, like you